Hello. For our next lesson, we're going to be learning about basic derivative rules now that we've had the definition of the derivative and its core concept. Now for part 1, we're going to be learning about the constant rule, the power rule, the constant multiple rule, and the sum and difference rule. For the constant rule, it's basically about a derivative, and when you have a constant, it will always be equal to 0. A constant could be any number like -2, 1, 1/2, or any number. So, how do we solve? Let's say you have to find the derivative of 7. 7 is a constant. Therefore, the derivative of 7 is 0. The derivative of -15. -15 is a constant. And therefore, the derivative is 0. If f of x is 1,000, then the derivative of f of x is 0. Now for our next rule, which is the power rule, this is the formula for the power rule. If f of x is equal to x raised to n, then the derivative is the exponent multiplied by the base, and then you have to subtract the exponent by 1. A number and then exponent. All you have to do is you're going to take the exponent, you're going to subtract it by 1, and then you're going to multiply this exponent in front of the base. Now for our examples using this power rule, we're going to start with d dx x to the 4th. First, we're going to take the exponent, we're going to take the base, and then we're going to take its exponent, which is 4, and we're going to subtract it by 1. That would be equal to 4x cubed. Let's try something with a negative exponent. How do you do that? Still the same. We're going to take the exponent, put it in front. We're going to take our base, and then we're going to subtract the exponent by 1. -3 minus 1 is -4. And therefore, our new exponent is -4. That's the derivative. What about if d dx is 5x raised to 7 over 2? Then, we're going to go copy the constant, and then we're going to get the exponent, and we're going to multiply it in front of x. And then we're going to have 7 over 2 minus 1, 35 over 2. And then we're going to copy x as the exponent. And then we're going to subtract 7 over 2 minus 1. 1 is equal to 2 over 2. That would be equal to 5 over 2. 35 over 2 x raised to 5 over 2. And that's the derivative. The constant multiple rule states that d of dx and a constant multiplied by a function. So if you find the derivative of it, you can get the constant multiplied by the derivative of the function. All you have to do is you're going to put the constant outside the derivative, and then you're going to take the derivative. And that would be the derivative of the entire function. So for example, if d of dx 3x squared, all you have to do is you're going to put 3 outside, and then you're going to take the derivative of x squared. Using the power rule, x squared, the derivative of it is 2x. And then you're going to copy the constant, and then you're going to multiply it by the derivative. And the answer is 6x. How to find the derivative of d dx minus 4x raised to the 5th power? First, you're going to put the constant outside, -4, d dx, and x to the 5th. We're going to take the derivative of x to the 5th, which is 5x raised to the 4th power. And then don't forget to put your constant. It's -4. So negative 4 multiplied by 5 is negative 20 x raised to the 4th power. How do you find the derivative of something like 7x raised to the negative 2 power? Okay, first we're going to put 7 outside. 7 d dx x raised to the negative 2nd power. We're going to take the derivative of this number. So since this is a negative number, we're going to put negative 2x, and negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So our exponent is negative 3. Then we're going to multiply with the constant, which is 7. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. And then we're going to get our variable and our exponent. And that's the derivative of 7x raised to the negative 2 power. Now for our sum and difference rule, this is for derivatives with polynomials, multiple terms. So it says that if f of x plus or minus g of x, then the derivative would be the derivative of the first term plus or minus the derivative of the second term. This also works if you have like multiple terms, like, so an example would be, for an easy one, what's the derivative of x squared plus x? How do you get the derivative of two terms? First, you're gonna take the first term, find the derivative. The derivative of x squared is 2x. Then you're going to copy the sign, and you're going to find the derivative of x, which is 1. I never really explained why the derivative of x is 1. So x has an exponent of 1, and when you find the derivative using the power rule, you're going to get the power and you're going to put it in front of the derivative, and then you're going to subtract the exponent by 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything raised to the 0th power is equal to 1. So therefore, this would be cancelled. That's why x disappears when you find the derivative if it has an exponent of 1. So now that we're left with 1, the derivative of x is 1. So this is our final answer. Using the sum and difference rule, 3x to the 4th minus 2x squared. This is 12x raised to the 3rd power minus 4x. Now, another question. X raised to the 5th power minus 4x raised to the negative 1 power plus 6. To find the derivative, we're going to use the power rule here. 5x raised to the 4th power. We're going to do the same here. It's a negative sign, so we're going to take the constant, we're going to multiply it by the exponent, and then we're going to put x, and we're going to get negative 1 minus 1. What would that be equal to? Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. We're going to copy x, and we're going to have negative 1 minus 1. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. So we're going to put negative 4x raised to the negative 2 power. And then, for their final term, the derivative of 6 is 0 because of the constant rule. We're going to simplify this expression. 5x to the 4th power. We're going to distribute the negative sign, so the negative becomes positive. So instead of minus, we're going to put plus. 4x raised to the negative 2 power. And that's our final answer for our sum and difference rule.